Chapter 351. That's right, what does your family do for a living? If it wasn't for the fact that I have to fulfill his honor's order, I really want to kill this woman. Kiss me and I'll tell you. If it were any other man, they would have directly pounced on her. However, Zhu Tian felt that this was an insult to him. However, this woman was still of some use to him, so he put his arm around her slender waist. Tell me. Annoying, there are so many people here. Guan Yanxin did not expect Zhu Tian to suddenly make such a move, and was a little embarrassed. Although Guan Yanxin was strong-minded, she would not go to the extent of messing around. Even now she did not have a boyfriend. Didn't she fancy Zhu Tian? He took the initiative to attack. However, Absolute Heaven only wanted to make use of him and did not have any other intentions. Now that Zhu Tian knew that he had the upper hand, he caressed her waist with his right hand and said indifferently, "Are you not going to say it?" The numbness coming from his waist made Guan Yan's heart flutter, but he also felt that it was very exciting. There were so many people coming and going. "Professor Zhu, do you know about aristocratic families?" Zhu Tian was slightly stunned and his right hand tightened. This time Zhu Tian was actually hugging Guan Yanxin. This was a sign of excitement. If he could sneak into one of the aristocratic families, wouldn't it be even easier to operate? Although Absolute Heaven's hypnosis technique appeared to be very powerful, it also had its flaws. If Guan Yanxin was hypnotized, her words and actions would be normal in the beginning. However, after a long period of time, her actions would slowly change, and it would be very easy for people close to her to notice. His honor had ordered us not to leave any evidence behind. "Absolute Heaven, what are you doing?" Guan Yanxin called out sweetly. She did not expect that Absolute Heaven would become so excited upon hearing that she was a member of an aristocratic family. However, this was also good. She could use her family's name to hook up with a handsome professor. Hugging Guan Yanxin's delicate body, Zhu Tian felt like vomiting. He never thought that he would have to use the honey trap. "Zhu Tian, are you feeling unwell?" Guan Yanxin liked men like Zhu Tian. It was love at first sight. After Absolute Heaven regained his calm, he said, "It's nothing, just a little nauseous." "Then let's go buy some medicine." "No need. Let's go in first." Zhu Tian really wanted to see who would be going up on stage tonight to facilitate his future plans. As for the woman beside him, he would temporarily make use of her. The two of them took the elevator to the top floor. "Miss Guan." The attendant beside the elevator shouted respectfully. As for Guan Yanxin, she didn't seem to care at all. She held onto Zhu Tian's arm happily. Zhu Tian swept his gaze across the crowd and discovered that there were some family heads from Purple Gold City among them. Xiao Yi, Tang Wushuang, the Bai-siblings, Wang Debao, Qin Xuanzong, and that female student were all present. These people were all present. Not bad. Tonight's trip was worthwhile. The purpose of the Guan clan's banquet was the same as the Yi clan's. It was nothing more than to canvass for votes. "Miss Guan. Miss Guan." Guan Yanxin held onto Zhu Tian's arm and nodded with a smile. His words and actions had the demeanor of a great master. Zhu Tian was currently considering Guan Yanxin's usefulness. Should he use this identity to enter the Guan family and make it easier for him to take action in the future? Brother. Guan Yanxin called out to a man. Zhu Tian looked over. This man's bearing was extraordinary, and he had an imposing appearance. He was actually her big brother. "Yanxin, you're finally here. Father has been looking for you everywhere." Guanli walked over and smiled. Seeing his sister holding a man's hand, he frowned. Guan Yanxin smiled and introduced, "Brother, this is Zhu Tian, my boyfriend." "When did you have a boyfriend?" Guan Li's tone was filled with ill intent as he asked gravely. "Only you are allowed to have a girlfriend, but I'm not allowed to have a boyfriend? Brother, you can't play like this." Guan Yanxin thought that her brother was joking and teased. Guan Li pulled his sister to the side. "You clearly know that father is going to announce the marriage between you and Jiang family today, yet you still brought a man here." "It's precisely because father is going to announce the marriage that I brought my boyfriend here." Guan Yanxin had an indifferent look on her face. "Do you want father's face to fall to the ground? You're too insensible. What does it have to do with me? In any case, I will choose my own man." Guan Li was angered to the point that his head hurt. I really don't know what to say. If you are thinking for your boyfriend's sake, then immediately break up with him. If not, he won't be able to see tomorrow's sun. Let's see who dares to touch him." Guan Yanxin wasn't someone to be trifled with. "What's wrong?" Zhu Tian walked over and asked faintly. Guan Li glanced at Absolute Heaven, then said to his little sister, "Do as you see fit." After saying that, he left. Absolute Heaven had a bad feeling about this. This was the best opportunity to infiltrate an aristocratic family. He could not let this woman escape for the time being. My father is going to sell me. Guan Yinxin sighed in relief. At this time, the helplessness he felt was similar to Dongfang Yuer. They were both used as bargaining chips. Hearing these words, Absolute Heaven's heart sank. Just a moment ago he was still thinking of how to make use of her. Yet, in the blink of an eye, it had all turned into bubbles. This caused Absolute Heaven's expression to sink. Seeing Zhu Tian's expression, Guan Yinxin thought that Zhu Tian was unhappy. Are you angry? Guan Yinxin asked curiously. Absolute Heaven frowned as he nodded his head. The plan he had been thinking about for a long time was suddenly ruined. How could he not be angry? Do you dare to make a bet with me? Guan Yinxin asked softly. At the end of the day, Guan Yinxin was also using Zhu Tian to get rid of her family's arranged marriage. She only chose someone she liked. In this aspect it was more or less the same as Xianxia. Hearing what Guan Yinxin said, Zhu Tian felt that he could only make a bet. It would naturally be good if he could successfully sneak into Guan family, but if he couldn't, it would bring him a lot of trouble. Furthermore, this Jiang family was also an aristocratic family. Messing up this arranged marriage might cause estrangement between the two of them. What is the purpose of your family hosting this banquet? The two leaned against the window. Zhu Tian naturally wanted to get some information out of Guan Yinxin. Guan Yinxin drank a glass of red wine, and with a blush on her face she said quietly, I will tell you, but you must not tell anyone else. All right. It is for the longevity fruit. Guan Yinxin said secretly. Zhu Tian revealed a puzzled look. Longevity fruit? You don't know, right? In actuality, aristocratic families aren't the most powerful. There is still Voidless Realm above them. Voidless Realm will distribute the longevity fruit once every 100 years, and only the people from aristocratic families know about it. Those aristocratic families don't know about it at all. Don't tell anyone about it, otherwise it will be troublesome. Guan Yinxin, who was slightly drunk, said in an infatuated manner. She completely didn't know how important this matter was, as it was related to the fate of her entire family. Even Yi Hua didn't know about the longevity fruit, yet this time Zhu Tian knew about it. This Guan Yinxin sure is a lucky star to be willing to sell out her teammates like this. Seeing Zhu Tian's surprised look, Guan Yinxin said with a smile, there are a lot of secrets in aristocratic families, and they are all things that cannot be revealed to others. You are drunk. Zhu Tian was a bit excited. It was right to come here today. This woman knows a lot of things. However, I can't act too aggressively right now. If not, it will raise her suspicion. Should I just use hypnosis to get the information out of her? Chapter 352. I'm not drunk. I just want to be drunk. Guan Yinxin's tone seemed to be filled with helplessness. Being born into such an aristocratic family, it was indeed easy to gain power and influence, but at the same time she had lost her personal freedom, and had to consider the family's reputation with every word and action. She was even stopped from getting a boyfriend. In Guan Yinxin's words, she was already in her 20s, and she didn't even know what it was like to be a woman. She really wanted to find a man she liked, marry him, and then do whatever she wanted. At least for the first time in his life, he had chosen someone he liked. Right now Zhu Tian was a bit vexed. His body's reaction was telling him not to touch this woman, but the message that was being transmitted in his mind was his honor's order. In the end, his honor's command won over his thoughts. Zhu Tian gently embraced Guan Yinxin, and Guan Yinxin snuggled into Zhu Tian's embrace. No matter what this man's motive was, at least he was someone she liked. Now, Absolute Heaven had encountered another problem. How could he make her listen to him willingly? Moreover, in a situation where he could not see through her motives? This was a little difficult. However, when Zhu Tian saw Dongfang Yuer, he curiously asked, why is this student here? Guan Yinxin turned around and said, similar to me, a girl who was sold by her family. The person beside her is her husband? Absolute Heaven asked curiously as he looked at Bai Qi. That's not it. I heard that the two of them haven't slept together yet. Although this Dongfang Yuer has a soft temper, she's still quite unyielding. I have to say that she has the shadow of the Dongfang family. Guan Yinxin chuckled. The Dongfang family? Absolute Heaven asked. Guan Yinxin nodded her head. That's right, this Dongfang was originally an aristocratic family, but something happened and they were stripped of their title. Dongfang Yuer is one of the younger generation of the Dongfang family. His luck today was simply off the charts. First it was the Guan family, now it's the Dongfang family. His honor can give the order to investigate the massacre of Dongfang family, and this Dongfang Yuer is the breakthrough point. However, how can I break through this breakthrough point normally? He needed to think about it carefully. After that, Guan Yinxin talked about a lot of family disputes. For example, the Xiao family and the Tang family weren't on good terms. Now that the Tang family had angered the Bai family, Qin Xuanzong had the intention to form an alliance with the Tang family. However, to absolute heaven, this was good news. After all, Guan Yinxin knew a lot of things, and he had to use this woman for a long time in order to obtain more information. On the other side of the banquet, Qin Xuanzong could be said to be a dark horse in the Purple Gold City. In just a few days' time, he had obtained the acknowledgement of many family heads. Basically, his figure could be seen in all of the banquets. Qin Xuanzong decided to put his relationship with Xianxia aside for now. After he ascended to the peak, he would look for Xianxia and tell her that Long Outyin wasn't a good person. Long Outyin, who was far away in the mountains, looked up at the sky and sighed. What the f***ck did I do wrong? Holding onto a glass of red wine, Qin Xuanzong arrived in front of Tang Wushuang, Tang family head. Patriarch Qin. Recently, Tang Wushuang's mood was exceptionally good, and this caused his hormones to be very active. If it wasn't for the beard on his face, the voice that he intentionally suppressed, and the bandage on his chest, Tang Wushuang would have already become a living beauty. Qin Xuanzong had also discovered that Tang Wushuang's voice sounded a bit intentional. Recently I caught a cold and my throat is a bit uncomfortable. Tang Wushuang explained with a smile. However, with his current strength, how could he possibly catch a cold so easily? Qin Xuanzong said with a concerned smile. Then Patriarch Tang, remember to rest well. Thank you for your concern, Patriarch Qin. I will naturally take care of myself. Tang Wushuang's expression also began to change a bit, and this caused Qin Xuanzong to have goosebumps all over his body. Patriarch Tang, when are we going to take action? Qin Xuanzong had already paid a visit to Tang Wushuang a few days ago. After that, Qin Xuanzong and Tang Wushuang came to an agreement, and they were going to exterminate the Xiao family together. Tang Wushuang looked at Xiao Yi, who was far away, and said gravely, after the aristocratic family selection is over, we will prepare to take action. Then I can be at ease. Qin Xuanzong patted on Tang Wushuang's shoulder. The latter went into a slight daze, and a girl-like shyness actually appeared on his forehead. This caused Qin Xuanzong to immediately stop. What's going on with this Tang Wushuang? Xiao Yi naturally discovered Tang Wushuang and Qin Xuanzong as well. The two of them having their arms around each other's shoulders definitely isn't a good thing. Looking at Bai Cixin, who was not far away, Xiao Yi revealed a kind smile and walked towards her. Patriarch Bai. Bai Cixin turned around slowly. Patriarch Xiao, it's been a long time. Patriarch Bai is still so beautiful. I'm so infatuated with you. Wang Debao, who was at the side, had a black face. You dare to flirt with my wife in front of me? Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have the xuanhuan sword. I can finish sucking a plate of snails without using my hands, but can you do it too? Bai Cixin smiled lightly and said, my husband is still beside me. Patriarch Xiao, please be careful with your words. Wang Debao snorted coldly and lightly hugged his wife. He seemed to be saying, you loser, hurry up and get lost. Chapter 353. I dare. Zhu Tian nodded his head. You go first. Zhu Tian did not explain and directly blended into the crowd, causing Guan Yinxin to be dumbfounded. Yinxin, who was that man just now? Guan Tong walked over and questioned. Guan Yinxin said in a deep voice, my boyfriend. Do you know what day it is today? Do you have to choose this day to anger father? Guan Tong bellowed in anger, his daughter's actions were smearing the family's name. I have to decide my own marriage. Guan Yinxin was very firm. She was better than Dongfang Yu in this aspect. She would resist. However, this kind of resistance was useless. You still want to decide your own marriage? Where did your boyfriend go? Does he have the guts to stand out? Guan Yinxin looked around and realized that Zhu Tian had disappeared. Did he run away in fear? He even asked me if I dared to do it, but he actually dared to run away. So timid. I originally thought that he was a man, but I didn't expect him to be acting. Look, your boyfriend is only SOSO. He ran away the moment father came. It can be seen how despicable he is. Guan Tong naturally did not want his daughter to follow an ordinary person or an ordinary family, so a marriage with the Jiang family was the most important thing. Guan Yinxin sighed deeply. She had misjudged. She really regretted saying those words just now. Alright, don't be sad. Jianghu is also a good boy. You will know after you interact with him. Guan Yinxin was silent. She seemed to have given up. Guan Tong patted his daughter's shoulder. Yinxin, father knows your thoughts, but being born in the Guan family, there are many things that can't be helped. Father was the same back then. Father, I understand. Guan Yanxing said dejectedly, her gaze was still searching the crowd, but she really did not see Zhu Tian. At this moment, Zhu Tian was contacting Wei Chang through the safe passage. Because there were some things that Zhu Tian did not know how to do, such as making a woman willingly help him. Zhu Tian, I have also thought about this question for a long time. Wei Chang's tone was filled with helplessness. Recently, Xiao Tang had returned to school and stayed in the dormitory at night. He had not seen her for a few days. This made Wei Chang very uneasy. This Xiao Tang could not be angry, right? Lil Tang was indeed very angry. I've already shared the same bed with you, but you haven't had any reaction all day. Is it because I'm not pretty enough? Obviously not, but Uncle Wei just didn't touch her. She was sad, thinking that Uncle Wei didn't like her at all. Zhu Tian asked curiously, then what conclusion did you come to? I can tell. Women like to fool around and do some inexplicable things. When Wei Chang thought of the things that Tang Wei did every day, he became puzzled. Tang Wei was hinting at you crazily, yet you didn't react at all. Don't tell me you want a girl to directly expose you. Zhu Tian disdained to use these despicable methods. Bang. The staircase's door could be seen being fiercely pushed open, and a man could be seen grabbing onto a woman's arm and pushing her against the wall. Zhu Tian took a look. It was actually his student Dongfang Yu, and that person from Bai family. This is a bit interesting. Dongfang Yu, what is the meaning of this? Are you not giving me any face at all? Bai Chi's hand slammed onto the wall fiercely, causing Dongfang Yu's ears to go numb. I am asking you a question. Seeing that Dongfang Yu remained silent, Bai Chi became furious. You don't allow me to touch you, but I am going to touch you today. After finished speaking, Bai Chi prepared to kiss Dongfang Yu. Dongfang Yu turned pale with fright as she used both of her hands to block. You said that you won't touch me. I am going to *CK you today. No one will be able to stop me. Dongfang Yu's face became extremely pale and powerless. However, looking at Bai Chi's malevolent face, Dongfang Yu didn't know where she got the strength to kick Bai Chi's crotch. Bai Chi was immediately stupefied. He raised his hand and gave Dongfang Yu a slap, then held onto his crotch. Slut. I am going to beat you to death today. Dongfang Yu directly fell onto the ground from the slap, but she didn't cry. She just felt that not being violated was better than anything else. Being beaten to death like this is also a form of release. Bai Chi relaxed and felt much better. Just as he was about to teach the woman on the ground a lesson, a voice rang out. Zhu Tian had been watching from the side for a long time. He felt that this was a good opportunity, a heaven-sent opportunity. He mustn't miss it. She is my student. If you dare touch her, I dare you. Zhu Tian slowly walked over, his tone ice-cold. In order to obtain Dongfang Yu's trust, Zhu Tian was willing to kill this Bai Chi. After all, this Bai Chi wouldn't be of much use in this matter, but as a corpse he would be of some use. Bai Chi's face darkened as he looked at Zhu Tian. Who are you? Chapter 354. If not for the fact that Zhu Tian doesn't like women, Zhu Tian would definitely be an expert at picking up girls. Appearing at the most helpless time of a girl, his timing was very accurate. Furthermore, hugging and comforting the other party like this, the other party was even more touched. Just like Dongfang Yuan, other than the senior sister that day, Dongfang Yuan was the second person that spoke up for me. No one else dared to offend the Bai family. You are my girlfriend's teacher. Bai Chi said confusedly. Zhu Tian lightly caressed Dongfang Yuan's beautiful hair, but in his heart he wanted to directly kill her. Women. I hate women. However, for the sake of his honor's mission, Zhu Tian endured the impulse in his heart. Not only am I her teacher, I am also her man. This time Bai Chi was startled. Even Dongfang Yuan was startled. I know that Professor Zhu is helping me, but he is someone from Bai family. Professor Zhu, don't say any more. What Dongfang Yuan meant was for Zhu Tian to not help her anymore, otherwise he would bring trouble upon himself. However, in Bai Chi's ears, it didn't sound like this at all. This Dongfang Yuan doesn't want me to say any more. So she already has a man. No wonder she doesn't want me to touch her. She is definitely afraid that I would find out that it wasn't her first time. I, the dignified young master of Bai family, was actually cuckolded. This is a humiliation. Today I am going to kill the two of you. Bai Chi relied on his big sister's power and did quite a lot of bad things. Adding on that no one dared to provoke him, this increased his arrogance even more. Especially during this period of time, his big sister is simply going to become the family head. As for me, I am also a young master of an aristocratic family. I don't put anyone in my eyes, let alone a person from a small family. Of course, Bai Qi still had some foundation, but he was only slightly stronger than ordinary people. Zhu Tian raised his hand and directly slapped Bai Qi onto the wall. Bai Qi held onto his cheek and looked at Zhu Tian in disbelief. You dare to slap me? Do you know who my big sister is? Do you know who I am? I only need to move a finger and you two will die. Bai Qi's handsome face was especially terrifying. His family's power had grown so much that he had almost forgotten his surname. Dongfang Yuaner left Zhu Tian's embrace and bowed to Zhu Tian. Professor Zhu, thank you for helping me, but please don't bother about this anymore, otherwise you will be in danger. What a good girl. She would rather put herself in danger than drag others down. However, Zhu Tian did not feel anything at all. In his mind, there was only his honor's command and the completion of his honor's command. Get out. Absolute Heaven said gravely. Bai Qi was startled. He didn't see anything unusual. Let's go, but don't let me see you. Otherwise I will beat you to death. Chapter 355. Jiang Yuanzhou stood up, stroked his collar, and slowly walked onto the stage with a dignified air. Just the way he walked up to the stage won him the applause of the patriarchs. Alright, it was just flattery. Jiang Yuanzhou waved his hand, signaling everyone to be quiet. He then patted his son's shoulder. The latter immediately shrank back as if he was about to be beaten. Jiang Yuanzhou saw his son's performance and glared fiercely at him. Don't make a fool of yourself in front of so many people. However, Jiang Jianhua was even more afraid. Maybe it was because he was beaten by his father when he was young. Now, when his father stared at him, he immediately became terrified. Straighten your back. Jiang Yuanzhou slapped his son's waist. He was so shocked that he immediately stood up straight, as if he was about to receive some sort of commendation. His chin was lifted slightly. If Jiang Jianhua had a little more confidence, he would also be a talent. Unfortunately, he had been traumatized by his father when he was young and had no confidence at all. It's my son's fortune to have such a good wife like Yan Xen. It's also a joyous occasion for the Jiang family. Of course, Guantong had to be polite as well. The fat on his face began to tremble. Brother Jiang is too polite. It is Yan Xian's fortune to be able to marry into the Jiang clan. Besides, Jianhua is a talented man with an imposing appearance. He is rare in this world. The compliments from the heads of the two aristocratic families really gave people goosebumps. Guan Yinxin, who was like a block of wood, looked as if she had lost her soul. Actually, everyone knew that this was because they had no choice but to join together for the sake of benefits. Say something. Jiang Yuanzhou said to his son in a low voice. After all, today was considered a public relationship followed by an engagement and then a marriage. As a man, of course, he had to express a few words. Jiang Jianhua looked at the large group of people in front of him and revealed a timid expression, unable to spit out a single word. No one knew who took the lead to applaud, but everyone began to encourage Jiang Jianhua, as if they were kindergartners who needed encouragement from adults before they would speak. This caused Jiang Yuanzhou's expression to turn ugly. However, this move was indeed useful. I like her very much. Jiang Jianhua said while stuttering, expressing his feelings very well. Although it was difficult, he still said it. Jiang Yuanzhou was relieved. Guantong also felt relieved. It was a good thing for his daughter to marry him. After all, with his daughter's intelligence, at least she wouldn't be bullied. The audience applauded again. Yinxin, come and say something, Guantong said to her daughter. Guan Yinxin came back to her senses and asked curiously, what are you guys talking about? The corner of Guantong's mouth twitched. Jiang Yuanzhou's face immediately darkened. Dongfang Yu'er, who was in the crowd, saw Zhu Tian kissing Guan Yinxin and slowly turned her head. At this moment, Guan Yinxin was completely intoxicated. She had completely forgotten where she was. Her first kiss was actually given in this kind of situation. Her little but was already hurting from being grabbed by her teacher. How exciting! After a long kiss, Guan Yinxin nestled in Zhu Tian's embrace with a tender and beautiful blush. That look was as if she wouldn't marry anyone else. As for Zhu Tian, he almost vomited again. Later on, he really had to buy some anti-vomiting medicine. It would still be useful in the future. Father, look at her. She was kissed by another man. I don't like it anymore. Jiang Jianhua was rather straightforward. Seeing his goddess being kissed, he was very jealous and didn't want her anymore. Jiang Yuanzhou looked towards Guantong with a sunken face. Guantong, you have to give me a good explanation for this matter. After speaking, he prepared to leave with his son. Guantong hurriedly shouted, Brother Jiang, my daughter was muddled for a moment. Father, I am not muddled. Guan Yinxin said with a tender smile. She very domineeringly kissed Zhu Tian's lips. She felt that Zhu Tian's lips had a good texture and even carried a fragrance. Guan Tong's mouth was almost crooked from anger. Seeing this, Jiang Yuanzhou coldly snorted, Guan Tong, this is the good daughter you taught. Making fun of my Jiang family. Brother Jiang, what do you mean by that? Guan Tong did not do it on purpose. In actuality, Guan Tong was already lowering his status and begging Jiang Yuanzhou. However, in the end, Guan Tong was still a family head of an aristocratic family. In front of everyone, Zhu Tian was kissing Guan Yinxin, who was in his embrace with all his might, and his hands were even roaming around Guan Yinxin's lower abdomen. So painful to the eyes. If there is really no one around, are the two of you going to fight for real? Look at her. Did I say anything wrong? Jiang Yuanzhou pointed at Guan Yinxin, who was kissing passionately, and shouted out. In actuality, Guan Tong was very angry as well. My daughter is actually hugging and kissing a man in front of so many people. My face is about to be completely thrown away. Just as the two family heads were arguing with each other, a commotion suddenly came out from the crowd. You are a profligate son. This was Tang Wushuang's voice. I am not a profligate son. You are talking nonsense. Bai Qi had a wronged look on his face as if he had received a huge blow. Right after he finished speaking, he immediately ran towards the balcony and leaped into the balcony under the gaze of everyone. The entire place was deathly silent, until a muffled sound rang out. Bai Qi. Jiang Yuanzhou said indifferently, By family head, this is your younger brother's suicide and no one harmed him. Tang Wushuang was just too extreme with his words. Furthermore, your two families are currently in the midst of the election, and Voidless Realm forbids your two families from fighting each other. If not, you will lose the right to participate in the election. Jiang Yuanzhou reminded Bai Cixin that if she fought now, she might lose the chance to run for the position of an aristocratic family. Tang Wushuang didn't have any intention of apologizing at all. In fact, he even wanted to infuriate Bai Cixin into making a move on him. This way, he would be able to sit on the position of the aristocratic family head. By family head, your younger brother's mental quality is extremely poor. Tang had only helped you to discipline him for a while, and now he's unable to think straight. My condolences. Tang Wushuang's words almost caused Bai Cixin to go berserk. Fortunately, Wang Debao stopped her and reminded her in a deep voice, Honey, calm down. If you make a move now, Bai Qi will have died for nothing. Bai Cixin stared fixedly at Tang Wushuang. Bai Cixin was also well aware of the consequences of him making a move on Tang Wushuang. Of course, he had to take revenge for Tang Wushuang, but not here. Don't tell me that Tang Wushuang isn't responsible for my younger brother's death. Bai Cixin questioned. Guan Tong and Jiang Yuanzhou glanced at each other. Actually, the death of a person wasn't a big deal, but the death was indeed from an aristocratic family, which was more troublesome. Although Tang Wushuang didn't do anything, he still insulted Bai Qi, and this caused Bai Qi to commit suicide by jumping off the building. If one were to say that Tang Wushuang wasn't at fault, it wouldn't make sense. Guan Tong said in a deep voice, Bai Cixin, I deeply sympathize with what happened to you, but the dead can't come back to life. My condolences. The meaning of these words was a little biased. Bai Ci had completely tricked him. This was bullying. Wang Debao was unconvinced and said angrily, This Tang Wushuang clearly knows that the two families are in the midst of the election, and yet he still insulted the two families, causing my brother-in-law's younger brother to commit suicide by jumping off a building. This is already considered as harming the two families, and Voidless Realm has given strict orders to the two families to not have any casualties. Right now, my brother-in-law's younger brother died in vain. Are we just going to let it go like this? Tang Wushuang explained, Wang Debao. You're twisting words and forcing logic. I told him to jump off a building? Was I wrong to call him a playboy? Ask everyone, is this Bai Qi a playboy or not? Little girl, I saw that you were bullied by Bai Qi for a very long time tonight. Do you think that a man like him is a playboy or not? Tang Wushuang asked Dongfang Yuanhe. In actuality, everyone had eyes, and this Bai Qi was indeed this kind of person, and he treated this little girl extremely badly. How would Dongfang Yuanhe dare to comment on this matter? Upon seeing that, Tang Wushuang said, Look, the little girl is scared to the point that she doesn't dare to speak. That's why, what's wrong with me saying that he is a playboy? Did he break the law? Tang Wushuang's explanation seemed to be a bit reasonable. Both sides had their own opinions, and it was hard for the two family heads to make a judgment as well. After all, they were both participating in the election. Guan Tong said faintly, "How about this? I will report this matter to the higher-ups and let Voidless Realm judge this matter. What do the two of you think?" Bai Cixin and Tang Wuxuang didn't have any objections. Zhu Tian pondered silently. In the end, this matter has reached the ears of the two madams. Right now, let's see how the two madams are going to judge this matter. According to the madam's personality, they will definitely judge this matter as innocent, and Bai Cixin will definitely not accept it. Then what I have to do next is to think of a way to make the two madams give the wrong verdict. At this moment, all kinds of good ideas appeared in Zhu Tian's mind, and I will definitely make things difficult for the two madams. Bai Cixin kept her ancient godly item. In her eyes it was Tang Wuxuang who killed her little brother, and she will definitely take revenge for this. The banquet finally ended. Although it wasn't as great as Yi family's banquet, it was still an eye-opener. This bespectacled man will definitely become famous, and the prerequisite is that he will be able to live past tonight. Zhu Tian looked at Dongfang Yuan who was all alone and walked forward. Meanwhile, Guan Yinxin followed closely behind him. Right now Guan Yinxin was very obedient. However, Guan Yinxin wasn't disgusted by Zhu Tian's behavior. Born in this family, if a man doesn't have a few wives he will seem very low and weak. In any case, it's fine as long as I'm the first wife. Student Dongfang. Zhu Tian shouted. Dongfang Yuan turned her head around and took a look, then immediately turned her head around and walked forward. This caused Zhu Tian to doubt his own appearance. In actuality, Dongfang Yuan didn't like to see Zhu Tian and Guan Yinxin together, and thus she didn't want to pay attention to them. However, Zhu Tian didn't want to let Dongfang Yuan off. He pulled Dongfang Yuan over and asked, "Are you all right?" "Professor Zhu, let go of me," Dongfang Yuan said sternly. However, that soft voice of hers didn't have a bit of persuasiveness at all, and there was even a hint of coquettishness to it. Zhu Tian looked at Dongfang Yuan and said, "In actuality, this is also pretty good, don't you think so?" Chapter 358. Absolute Heaven was very depressed. It was clearly you guys who were shouting that you couldn't do it anymore, yet now you are still thinking of doing it yourself. How could this be? Professor Zhu, Teacher Zhu, come quickly. I don't even know what it feels like. Guan Yinxin was indignant. This was the most important moment in her life and it was gone just like that. She didn't even get to taste the sweetness. Vexation could be seen between Zhu Tian's brows. However, he was also worried that Guan Yinxin would not listen to his words. According to what Lai Gu said, I have to *ck her until she is completely obedient. Thinking up to this point, Absolute Heaven felt slightly nauseous. Fortunately, he had not eaten anything yet. Zhu Tian stood up. Guan Yinxin's beautiful eyes lit up. Professor Zhu's strength was very strong. Dongfang Yuan, who was at the side, turned her head. She had already repaid him, and it could be said that she had fulfilled one of her wishes. Enduring the slight pain, Dongfang Yu stood up. However, she was pressed back onto the bed by Absolute Heaven, who had walked over. Standing by the side, Guan Yinxin gulped down a mouthful of saliva. She did not know why, but when she saw Zhu Tian pressing down on Dongfang Yu, she felt an indescribable sense of stimulation and excitement. "You, where are you planning to go?" Zhu Tian asked coldly. Dongfang Yuan didn't dare to look at Zhu Tian's eyes and weakly said, "I'm going to class. Today I'll give you a good lesson." "You're not allowed to go anywhere," Absolute Heaven said in a deep voice. Today he would make the two of them obedient. As he spoke, he cupped his fists. Dongfang Yuan's charming face was filled with shock. She felt as though her body was about to break apart. Her slender palm pressed on Zhu Tian's chest. Very soon, Dongfang Yuan let out an alluring moan. 2 minutes later, "Zhu Tian, I can't take it anymore." Dongfang Yuan's stamina was unable to keep up with the tempo. Absolute Heaven was too ferocious, and Dongfang Yuan's delicate body was simply unable to endure Absolute Heaven's torment. Zhu Tian asked coldly, "Will you be obedient in the future?" I'll listen to you." Dongfang Yuan felt like she was about to faint. Hearing Dongfang Yuan's reply, Absolute Heaven felt relieved. Guan Yinxin, who was at the side, couldn't wait any longer. It was too exciting. "Zhu Tian, come and get me." 10 minutes later. "I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. I surrender." Under Absolute Heaven's indiscriminate bombardment, Guan Yinxin persisted for 10 minutes before finally fainting. However, Absolute Heaven did not feel anything at all. Standing up, He glanced at the two people on the bed before disappearing from the room. Because I have important information to report to his honor. Today Yihua woke up very early and Qing Yutong also changed a little today. Thinking about it, Donghuang Baiji made a move on me 3 years ago, while Qingya made a move on me only a few months ago. After tasting that wonderful feeling they definitely wanted me to pamper them again, but in the end I actually didn't do it. Thus they became angry. This theory of Lai Gu's is not bad, he grasped the main point. It is precisely because they are too energetic and also because they have a grudge against me, that's why they came up with this plan. But even so, do you think that I am that kind of person? You two can do whatever you want, it is your honor for me to pamper you two. To actually quarrel with me over this kind of thing, after I teach you two a lesson, I will make you two unable to get off the bed. Let's see if you two still have the energy to quarrel with me. Oh right, how do you plan to deal with those two women? Yihua asked curiously. Could it be that this iron tree has blossomed? To actually force them to drink wine, I have never been so shameless before. Zhu Tian slightly lowered his head to show respect, then said, after this I will fulfill their wishes. After that? Yihua continued asking. Zhu Tian wrinkled his brows, that's all. Yihua took out a cigarette and lit it up, then said faintly, Zhu Tian, I will have to criticize you for this. Zhu Tian's expression tensed up, then immediately knelt down in front of Yihua, accepting the Supreme Overlord's criticism. Subordinate knows his mistake, Your Honor, please forgive me. Wait for me to finish speaking first. Yes. Zhu Tian continued to lean over and listen to Zhu Tian's words. Yihua didn't have any intention to wake Zhu Tian up and said faintly, men should be responsible for what they should be responsible for. Although what you did can be considered as a play, you took away the other party's first blood and furthermore the first blood was taken away by you while you were deceiving them. It can be seen just how sad they will be when the time comes. But Your Honor, Zhu Tian really doesn't like women, he isn't targeting them. Zhu Tian hurriedly explained. Yihua's expression turned cold. Did I allow you to speak? Your Honor, please forgive me. Chapter 359. Zhu Tian, Your Honor, if you were honest, your wife wouldn't have left home. Just thinking about it was enough. Saying it out loud was a crime punishable by death. Thank you for your guidance, Your Honor. Get up. Thank you, Your Honor. Yihua flicked away that half a stick of cigarette ash and continued, in this aspect you have to learn from Lai Gu and Wei Chang. Since you have already slept with them, in the future, I will stay by your side and properly serve you, I will be at ease. Just a moment ago, Absolute Heaven was still regretting. He regretted that he had impulsively taken those two women yesterday night, and he was even prepared to go and fight with Lai Gu. However, after hearing what his honor had said just now, Zhu Tian was so moved that he prostrated himself in admiration. So it turns out that his honor cares so much about me, and because his honor was afraid that I wouldn't have anyone to serve me, his honor found a woman for me. The sun and moon can bear witness to his honor's intentions. I, Zhu Tian, am terrified. Zhu Tian could be seen bowing respectfully to Yi Zichen, then saying gravely, Thank you, Your Honor, for showing concern to your subordinate. Zhu Tian, you two have followed me through fire and water for so many years, it is time for you two to enjoy life. The gentleness of human women is indeed pleasurable, but sometimes, I really want to beat them to death. Originally he was quite happy about it. However, when he thought of Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's actions yesterday, he became angry. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, The wife chosen by his honor is definitely a phoenix among men. It is normal for her to have a bit of a temper. Alright, stop putting in good words for them. Is there any progress? Reporting to your honor, it is a breakthrough. Yihua's eyes lit up. The sooner I can slap their faces, the better it will be. After all, the earlier they will be able to come back to me, the earlier I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to be living by myself, empty, lonely, and cold. Tell me. Yes. Following which, Absolute Heaven recounted everything that had happened last night, as well as some of his own thoughts. After hearing that, Yihua took a deep breath. Well done. Hearing his honor's praise, Zhu Tian felt that he had succeeded in selling himself. I hope your honor can give me some pointers. Zhu Tian was still very smart. All of the credit belongs to his honor, and I was only following his honor's instructions. Yihua was also very satisfied with Zhu Tian's attitude. Zhu Tian, what you mean is that we should spread the news about the longevity fruit to the north, thereby arousing the greed of the people in the north, and from there we will be putting pressure on Voidless Realm? That's right. Yihua laughed lightly and a trace of coldness could be seen in his gaze. Have you forgotten about their status in the south? Absolute Heaven frowned. Right now, the powers in the south are treating the two of them as female deities. If the news about the longevity fruit had started from the south, I reckon that these people wouldn't be calling them female deities, and instead they would be shouting that everyone is equal. After finished speaking, Yihua laughed lightly. The person you saved back then came back to cheat you. That must feel pretty good, right? In the end, you will understand a principle: only I treat you the best in this world. Your honor is wise, subordinate is truly too slow-witted. Zhu Tian praised. Yihua said faintly, if the distribution of the longevity fruit is not handled properly, voidless realm, hee. Yihua had seen too many treasure-snatching battles. Regardless of whether it was an ally, a boss, or a brother, whoever that was in the way would be killed. Not to mention something that could extend one's lifespan. Luckily, Donghuang Baiji didn't tell me about this. If not, she would definitely suspect that I was the one who leaked this information. Not bad. But when I think about it, isn't he a little too distrustful of me? It's such a big matter, yet he didn't even tell me about it. In the future, I will definitely not spank you. Instead, I will make you beg for mercy. However, I will not forgive you. Upon thinking about how Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji would be begging for mercy, Yihua couldn't help but feel pleased. Yihua continued, we must definitely find evidence to prove the injustice done to Dongfang family. We must do whatever it takes, but we must not be found out. I am really curious how they will judge this case. Also, think of a way to make those families fight against each other. Zhu Tian said solemnly, Your Honor, do you want subordinate to make some arrangements for Xiao family? You can make arrangements, don't let them be too idle. Yes. After finished talking with Yihua, Zhu Tian returned to the dormitory. Looking at the two young girls who were lying on the bed, Zhu Tian felt that he should rest for a bit first and think about how to set up a trap for Xiao Yi. As for spreading the news in the south, his honor will make the arrangements. Yihua, who was sitting on the sofa, contacted Wei Chang. Right now, Wei Chang was currently waiting for Tang Wei in the university, and Wei Chang was currently holding onto a bouquet of flowers. This old man still knows how to be romantic. However, upon hearing his honor's message, Wei Chang immediately disappeared from the campus. Coincidentally, Tang Wei rushed over at this moment and discovered that Uncle Wei wasn't around at all. To think that Uncle Wei said that he was going to give me a surprise. Your Honor. Go and having family know. Send someone to spread a piece of news. Make sure that those families are the first to know about it. Wei Chang didn't like to ask too many questions. I only need to do as his honor says. Yes. Yihua let out a breath. Chapter 360. Tang Wuxuang also didn't instigate Bai Qi to jump off the building. Hearing Donghuang Baiji's words, Xianxia asked confusedly, Baiji, do you think that Yihua is adding fuel to the fire? After I heard it, I also thought the same way. Therefore, I asked about the situation at that time in detail. There wasn't anything abnormal. Tang Wuxuang and Bai Qi had a physical conflict and started to scold each other. In the end, it became a tragedy. Xianxia silently nodded her head. If this was really done by Yihua, how could there be so many details? That clumsy fool only knows how to touch all day long. However, Bai Qi suddenly jumped off the building for no reason, so the two women were a little suspicious. It had to be said that Absolute Heaven had handled the details very well, making it so that others would not be able to see the truth of the matter, making it seem as if it was real. Xianxia asked, what do you plan to do? After all, you ordered them not to make a move. Now that someone has died, it seems to go against your words. This was what Donghuang Baiji was puzzled about. If I don't pursue this matter, wouldn't I be slapping my own face? If he were to pursue the matter, what reason would he use to pursue it? Just because you scolded someone, that person's heart became weak and couldn't take it anymore and committed suicide. Yet you want to pay with your life? This is too absurd. I have never encountered such a thing before. Xianxia, what do you think I should do? Right now, Donghuang Baiji really wanted to sleep on the bed and be hugged by Yihua. Now, he had only been out for a day and something very troublesome had already happened. It was hard for Xianxia to say who was at fault, but she did put forward an interesting point of view. Baiji, if this matter was arranged by Yihua, what is his intention? Xianxia said with a smile. Donghuang Baiji took a sip of tea. Those moist lips were Yihua's favorite. If Yihua is really the mastermind behind all of this, then his goal should be right now. The two women looked at each other and smiled. With Yihua's personality, it is indeed possible. However, in the end, it is just a hypothesis and there is no evidence to prove it. Right now, Xianxia also missed Yihua. If Yihua was here, he would definitely have a lot of crooked reasoning. Although his reasoning was a bit crooked, It seemed to be effective. Could it be that she had wronged him? But you can't yell at me like that. No matter what, I'm your wife. What's wrong with saying a few nice words? Women don't need to be coaxed. On the contrary, Yihua never knows how to coax a woman. The two women discussed for a long time and finally came to a conclusion. Tang Wuxuan gave a warning and consoled by family by giving them a bottle of bejeweled jade immortal dew as an excuse. Very quickly, the two families received the same result. Tang Wuxuan was very unhappy with the warning punishment. What does that brat jumping off the building have anything to do with me? To actually give me a warning punishment, will I be punished or not? When Bai Cixin, who was wearing a white cloth on her head, received Voidless Realm's result and a bottle of bejeweled jade immortal nectar, there was not a single ripple on her face. She twisted open the bottle cap and sprinkled the bejeweled jade immortal dew in front of her little brother's memorial tablet. Clearly, she was not satisfied with this punishment, and even more so, she was dissatisfied with Voidless Realm. The murderer was actually only given a warning. Meanwhile, Yihua also stopped his wife's punishment and sneered, "You are truly soft-hearted. The more benevolent you are, the more others will think that you are easy to bully." As a big power, Voidless Realm had to display their iron-blooded side. You have too much to learn. However, this kind of punishment was within Yihua's expectations. It isn't your fault to be kind, the fault is to be kind to bad people. At this moment, Absolute Heaven was in the middle of a lecture, and he was being assaulted by the gazes of the female fans. However, he still had to retain his identity as a university professor. On the way back to the dormitory, Yihua bought some food. After all, there were still two women upstairs. Originally, Yihua wanted to let the two women fend for themselves after the mission ended, but since his honor had already spoken, he decided to let the two women stay by his side and serve him. However, looking at the lunchbox that was in his hand, Absolute Heaven felt that it wasn't the two women who were serving him. Absolute Heaven still didn't understand what his honor meant. The serving that Yihua said was not the serving that Absolute Heaven was thinking of. As a boss, Yihua naturally had to share his happiness with his subordinates. However, Absolute Heaven, who was like a cat, didn't feel the slightest bit of happiness, and instead he felt that his chest was stuffy. Opening the door of the dormitory, Yihua saw the two women wearing his shirt and sitting at the table eating instant noodles. A young lady wearing a man's shirt has a different flavor, especially when there is nothing inside the shirt. If it was Lai Gu who was here, there was no need to say anything. Lai Gu would definitely speak with his strength. However, Absolute Heaven shifted his gaze away after taking a glance at the two women. "I bought some rice for you too." Absolute Heaven placed the casserole rice on the table and said faintly. Xuanhuan took a glance, then teased, "Professor Absolute Heaven, you made our little sister Yuer suffer so much that she wants to die, and you want to send her away just like that?" Dongfang Yuer's face immediately turned red. "How could that be? Professor, don't listen to her nonsense." "Then do it again with Professor Ju." "No." Dongfang Yuan Air rejected as expected. However, Absolute Heaven was unhappy. "I'm letting you enjoy yourself, yet you don't want it?" This was intolerable. "I'll directly carry Dongfang Yuan onto my thighs, then I'll fill up my brain." Xuanhuan was stunned. This kind of life was perverted, especially when she saw you in pain and happiness. It was even more exciting. Slowly standing up, Xuanhuan actually gave Dongfang Yuan Air a wet kiss. This caused Dongfang Yuan Air to widen her beautiful eyes in disbelief. At the back was Zhu Tian, and at the front was Xuanhuan. With Xuanhuan's help, Dongfang Yuan soon fainted, and 10 minutes later, Xuanhuan also fainted. However, Absolute Heaven did not feel anything. He only believed that he had completed his mission and obtained their loyalty. Of course, there was also a trace of refreshment, as if this trace of refreshment appeared in their normal and dizzy state. So, it turns out that even without using force, it is still possible to make a woman beg for forgiveness. What Lai Gu said is still correct. Zhu Tian wore his clothes and stood up, then said faintly, "After watching this action movie for so long, aren't you going to give it a 5-star review?" The corner of the bedroom gradually twisted, and 3 masked men actually appeared. When Zhu Tian entered the bedroom, he noticed that there were people that came in, and they were looking for him. Just that, I didn't expect that they would actually be able to watch the show for so long. Looking at their crotch, the tent isn't big. They might have been shocked by my strength, and they don't have the confidence to kill me anymore. Today we are here to send you to hell. The man that was leading the group shouted out coldly and released quite a bit of spiritual energy. Zhu Tian said faintly, "You should be Yinxin's big brother, right? I took a look at you yesterday." The man paused for a moment, and the spiritual energy on his body became a bit chaotic. Soon after, he shouted out, "Go and die." Zhu Tian sneered, then immediately tore off the man's mask. Zhu Tian, who was in front of Guanli, did not move at all, but his mask was gone, and Guanli immediately covered his face with his hands. "What? You have the face to look at me but don't have the face to admit it?" Zhu Tian said calmly. "Nonsense. Am I, Guanli, that kind of person?" Guanli's face and ears became red. Originally, he was here to kill this professor according to his father's wish. When he came over, he didn't discover that there was no one around, and on the contrary, he saw his little sister and another girl. However, when he saw his little sister who was wearing a shirt, and Guanli actually didn't show his face, Guanli felt very excited. Chapter 361. Especially when he saw his younger sister taking advantage of that girl, his breathing actually became hurried and he almost revealed himself. It was too exciting. Absolute Heaven spread out his hands and said, "Actually, I don't mind you peeking." Guanli was shocked. "Actually, what I care about is that you entered my house without my permission. You didn't even take off your shoes." Absolute Heaven's gaze emitted a sinister chilliness. His pupils actually changed to that of a feline. Cats were very fond of cleanliness. The three men were shocked by the scene in front of them and took a step back reflexively. Suddenly they felt something grab their feet. He lowered his head to look. Countless ghostly hands appeared on the floor as if they were trying to break free from the shackles. However, these ghostly hands grabbed their legs and dragged them down with all their might. Guanli's body seemed to have sunk into a swamp, gradually sinking. No matter how the three men struggled, it was useless. "Brother-in-law, let's talk this out." Guanli didn't think too much about it and hurriedly begged for mercy. This man's strength had been wrong. "I'm listening." Guanli was speechless. "I'm not asking you to listen to me, I'm asking you to let me go. Brother-in-law, let me go. I won't peek next time." Guanli's eyes were filled with terror. Both of his feet had already sunk in, and even that disgusting ghostly hand was touching his chin. What was even more frightening was that he could still feel his feet. Someone was tearing his pants. He even took off all his clothes. Furthermore, Guanli screamed in pain and so did the two men behind him. On the bed, Guan Yinxin pursed her lips, turned over and hugged Dongfang Yu. The scene was extremely alluring. Guanli endured the pain and shouted, "I'm Xianxian's brother. If you kill me, she will hate you for the rest of her life." "She won't know." Guanli was speechless. "I feel so powerless talking to this man. Xianxian, quick, save brother, this is a demon." Guanli shouted at Guan Yinxin. Sitting at the bedside, Absolute Heaven said indifferently, "You saw it for yourself just now. I beat them down." "You? Don't worry, I will treat your sister well." Guanli stared at Absolute Heaven with a dumbfounded expression. "Are you sure you want to say such words at a time like this? Isn't it inappropriate?" "I curse you, Wu." The three heads gradually disappeared and the floor returned to normal. "Hey Mr. Zhu, it's so noisy." "Who's shouting?" Guan Yinxin whined. "Unimportant person, since you're awake, let's begin." "No." From what Lai Gu said, when a woman said no, it meant that she wanted it. Absolute Heaven once again became enraged, causing Guan Yinxin to lose the strength to even move her fingers. On the other hand, Dongfang Yuan was much smarter. Even though she was awake, she was still pretending to be unconscious. However, who was Absolute Heaven? Did he think that he would be fine just because he fainted? Dongfang Yuer's pleas for mercy rang out in the room. Could this be considered as just escaping from the wolf's mouth and entering the tiger's den? Of course, the former was resisting while the latter was willing. Unlike Lai Gu's reaction was instinctive, and he also enjoyed it. Absolute Heaven was not enjoying the process. Rather, he was enjoying the instant of pleasure. He had to admit that the 7 deadly sins all had their own unique taste. In actuality, Yi Zizi's taste was a bit heavy as well, just that she didn't show it. At night, Absolute Heaven planned to pay a visit to his father-in-law and create an alibi. This brother of his still has some value. Although your wives are kind, it doesn't mean that they are stupid. Guan Yinxin was driving the Ferrari, while Absolute Heaven was carrying the frail Dongfang Yuan and sitting on the front passenger seat. Dongfang Yuan was wearing a dress and right now her dress had already reached her waist. Guan Yinxin, who was driving, would tease Dongfang Yuan from time to time. "I feel that I have already fallen in love with this kind of life. Just what kind of life did I live in the past? Thinking about it, it feels so dull and boring." Guan family was situated in the mountainous area outside of Zijin City. It was an old residence. Right now, the interior of the residence was brightly lit, and it seemed like something was being held. Guan Yinxin stopped the car and got off the car to take a look, then muttered, "Today is actually the gathering of the aristocratic families at the end of the month. Do the aristocratic families even gather for a gathering?" Absolute Heaven supported Dongfang Yuan who was standing unsteadily and asked curiously. Guan Yinxin nodded her head. "This is a rule that has been passed down from generation to generation. Perhaps it is because the aristocratic families wish to interact more with each other and not become unfamiliar with each other." However, Voidless Realm might not have thought that not only did this kind of gathering not achieve the desired effect, the things that they did were also disgusting. Guan Yinxin added. The corner of Absolute Heaven's mouth curved up slightly. Information came again. "There are some things that I can't ask too much about." It would only be reasonable for Guan Yinxin to say it herself. "What disgusting things?" Absolute Heaven pulled Guan Yinxin to his side and caressed her body with his palm. If not for the fact that she was wearing a dress, his palm would have already entered her body. Being caressed by Absolute Heaven, Guan Yinxin immediately felt weak. Fortunately, there were not many people at the place where the car was parked. However, she felt that it was very exciting. "There are too many of them. I usually don't participate in this kind of gathering." Guan Yinxin only felt excited when she was with Absolute Heaven. Chapter 362. Miss? Miss? The guards at the door shouted respectfully. However, they felt that it was a little strange. Why was the young miss carrying a blushing and weak beauty in her arms? And looking at the young miss, she seemed to be very evil. The man next to her was full of righteousness and was a gentleman. Guan Yinxin supported Dongfang Yue and nodded to the guards, then walked in. He didn't forget to take advantage of Dongfang Yue. As the daughter of an aristocratic family, she naturally had some strength, but Dongfang Yue didn't, and could only be manipulated by him. How pitiful. Zhu Tian, on the other hand, did not wish to meddle in their private matters. He looked around for a moment, preparing his plan. Now he had a good idea. Dongfang Yue was originally from the Dongfang family, and if she could obtain an ancient godly item, she would definitely be able to participate in the selection. However, I will also be suspected by your madam. Regarding this matter, I still need to discuss it with His Honor. I cannot act on my own accord. Yen Xn don't bully you anymore. Zhu Tian glanced at Yen Xn, a hint of helplessness in his tone. He saw Guan Yinxin pressing Dongfang Yue against the wall. She was currently enjoying Dongfang Yue's cherry lips without the slightest bit of restraint. Who knows where her pair of delicate hands were touching? The pitiful Dongfang Yue was passively enjoying all of this, and she felt as if her soul had gone astray. Hearing Zhu Tian's words, Guan Yinxin stopped her frivolous actions. However, when she saw Dongfang Yue's delicate and pitiful appearance, she wanted to bully her again. Zhu Tian protected Dongfang Yue in his embrace. "All right, stop bullying Yue." Professor Zhu spoke up for you," Guan Yinxin said with a beaming smile. The latter buried her head deep into Zhu Tian's bosom. "This isn't an ordinary tiger's den. I'm really worried that my body will be torn apart by them." Hugging Dongfang Yue, Zhu Tian asked, "Yue, are you happy?" Dongfang Yue's face couldn't help but turn red, and she couldn't help but recall the matters of the past 2 days. She felt that it was too sudden, as if her life had changed in an instant. But was he happy? It seemed to be a little like being cared for like this. "Professor Zhu, in that case, can I make a request?" Dongfang Yue said weakly. Just this tone alone was enough to show that he wanted to bully her. Zhu Tian nodded his head. "Go ahead." Dongfang Yue said in a low voice, My body is weak, can I not do it every day?" According to Lai Gu's experience, when a woman says this, it means that she is not satisfied. A satisfied woman would wish that you are like this every single day. No. Zhu Tian felt that Dongfang Yue was the one who was dissatisfied with him. This is something that concerns the success rate of His Honor's mission, and I cannot be sloppy about this. And when this Duanho saw Zhu Tian, interest appeared in her big and small eyes. "Father!" Guan Yinxin shouted out tenderly. She did not feel that she had lost face at all. Zhu Tian was her sky, a man that could make her feel as if she was in heaven. Zhu Tian was very formidable. He merely nodded his head towards Guan Tong. Most importantly, he was hugging another woman. Jiang family knew about the inside story, while the other 3 families only heard about what happened last night. Chu He laughed heartily. "Congratulations to family head Guan for obtaining such a handsome son-in-law. There was obviously a belittling intention in his words. Handsome son-in-law, isn't that the same as saying that he is a gigolo? Isn't that a person from by family? Jiang Yuanzhou asked curiously. Guan Yinxin smiled and added, little sister had escaped from by family's control and regained her freedom. She was fancied by her husband. For an aristocratic family this was not a big deal, it was just taking in a concubine. Guan Tong appeared to be very angry, his chubby face was trembling, and his double chin looked extremely disgusting. The person behind Chu He was naturally Chu Bo, a man who couldn't find his big brother. And he was currently sizing up Dongfang Yuer. During the auction that day this girl was also present. Looking at her trembling appearance he really wanted to bully her. It wasn't only Chu Bo who thought so, everyone thought so as well. That delicate appearance of hers could indeed cause others to feel pity for her, but that was only for ordinary people. To them there was also a hint of bullying within the pity. It would definitely be very fun to bully such a girl. Indeed, even Zhu Tian felt secretly happy, especially when Dongfang Yuer was begging for mercy in a low voice. That helpless expression, that expression of her biting her lips, the value was so great that it could explode the heavens. Guan Tong thought that his son had already succeeded, but in the end not only did he not die, he even came here. If it wasn't for the fact that there were so many people here, he would have directly killed him. He hopes that your child will not become like this and jump off a building to commit suicide. After saying that, Dou Fusher heaved a sigh of relief. Today's mission could be considered completed. However, this woman was crying as she looked at him. Could it be that she had been moved by his charm? Sighed, the head of the Bai family was too frivolous. But if he really wanted to flirt with me, I would just symbolically resist for a while and then accept my fate. A cold and gloomy wind suddenly blew in the morning hall. Dou Fusher looked at the black tower in Bai Cixin's hand. However, a ball of ferocious black fog attacked him, and then his consciousness blurred. Didn't you say there was no threat? How could this be? I was fooled by Big Brother Black Robe. No wonder sister-in-law told him to be careful before he left. It seemed that sister-in-law still loved me and knew that things were dangerous. Bai Cixin openly used an ancient godly item to kill someone in her little brother's morning hall, causing everyone in the surroundings to be stupefied. I feel that something big is going to happen tonight. Bai Cixin slowly stood up and shouted out gravely, Tang family is going too far. My Bai family and Tang family are irreconcilable enemies. Ordinary families wouldn't dare to get involved in a fight like this, as they were afraid of getting implicated. After all, Bai Cixin was currently disregarding Voidless Realm's order. Wang Debao was not a coward and thus he naturally supported his wife. Xiaoyi, do you dare to follow me to Tang family? Xiaoyi, who was sitting at the side, pondered. If Tang Wuxuang were to become the head of a family, his days would definitely not be good. I am going to exterminate Tang family tonight. Bai Cixin will also receive Voidless Realm's punishment, and I won't be able to escape as well. However, at the very least, my crime will be lighter and I will be able to get rid of any future threats. This is a pretty good choice. Furthermore, with two ancient godly items, why would I be afraid of a small Tang family? Let's go. Xiao Yi chose to exterminate Tang family to get rid of any future troubles. Bai Cixin said to the family heads present, after tonight, you all can say whatever you want. However, if someone were to go and drink water tonight, that person would be making an enemy out of my Bai family. Since Bai Cixin had already said it to this point, everyone naturally wouldn't go and tell on Bai Cixin. After all, this was human nature. This Tang family is too excessive, they actually sent people over to mock us. Bai Cixin brought along Bai family's people and charged towards Tang family. Of course there was also Wang Debao and Xiaoyi. A huge battle tonight is unavoidable. The people in the morning hall gradually dispersed, and only Dou Fusher's gloomy expression was left behind. Death Mage suddenly appeared and brought Dou Fusher away. Soon after, Death Mage transferred a bit of healing black mist to Dou Fusher. Dou Fusher immediately woke up. Ooh, you scared me to death, big brother, and you still dare to say that there is no danger? GGG, Imperial Translation. Of course there is no danger, aren't you fine? Dou Fusher's heart was filled with despair. After experiencing the thrill of death, this feeling is simply too terrifying. Sun Fang came over with a bowl of porridge. Drink some porridge, today's mission was done very well. Dou Fusher happily received the bowl of porridge. Thank you, sister-in-law. Eldest sister-in-law treats me the best. It seems that she can't forget me, but it's not convenient for her to express it. At this moment, in Tang family's manor, Tang Wuxuang was actually sitting in front of the dressing table, and his two wives were currently helping him put on makeup. Her expression did not change. Although she was disappointed, it was better than seeing her husband collapse. Am I beautiful? Tang Wuxuang's voice had completely changed, and his face had also changed. Everything had changed. Xuanhuan looked at her husband in the mirror and took a deep breath. Her husband's appearance was getting better day by day, and he was about to lose to her. Furthermore, there was even a hint of flirtatiousness between her brows. Beautiful. Xuanhuan didn't dare to imagine what would happen next. It was the same for Mujia. Her husband had become neither human nor ghost, and she still had to keep smiling. Tang Wuxuang stretched out his long and thin finger and stroked his own beautiful face. He was incomparably happy. So this is how it feels to become a woman. It seemed like his mentality had changed. Suddenly, Bai Cixin's delicate shout resounded from outside the house. Tang Wuxuang, get out here and pay for my brother's death. Tang Wuxuang's brows wrinkled, then snorted, ignorant woman. Wuxuang. His two wives called out worriedly. Tang Wuxuang said, you two stay at home and wait for me to kill that bitch. Be careful. Tang Wuxuang's current strength was much higher than before. If Tang Wuxuang was a Santana in the past, then he was currently a Portia. Looking at Bai Cixin, Xiao Yi, Wang Debao, and the others who were in front of him, Tang Wuxuang shouted out, what are you looking for me for? When Absolute Heaven, who was currently attending the banquet, received the report, the corner of his lips curled up slightly. He was in a very good mood. Sure enough, he had guessed correctly. Bai Cixin loved her younger brother very much. In order to avenge her younger brother, she even gave up her position as a member of an aristocratic family. For a woman who loved power, this choice was truly admirable. However, to Absolute Heaven this was just a quest. If she could fall for it, she would naturally be happy. If she couldn't, it didn't matter. He naturally had other methods. Right now, I only need an opportunity and everything will be so natural. The slightly happy Absolute Heaven hugged Dongfang Yuer in his arms and started to take liberties with her again. Jutian, don't let's go home first? Dongfang Yuan Air said pitifully. That tender and pitiful look of hers made one's heart ache, but at the same time, it also made one unable to help but to want to continue bullying Jutian. Absolute Heaven nodded his head and said in a low voice, next time, don't wear such a long skirt. Guan Yinxin said sweetly, then I won't even wear underwear. Sure. Absolute Heaven said with a deadpan expression, as if he was discussing a very deep problem. At the banquet, Duanho raised her head and drank a cup of wine, then asked, Yi Xiao, I heard that your son and Sage Doctor disappeared together. My son might have gone somewhere to handle some matters with Sage Doctor. Yi Xiao squeezed out a smile and said, this is not what Chu family's young master said. This matter has to be investigated properly. The crime of murdering the son of an aristocratic family is not small. Duanho's words had the intention of sowing dissension, but that was the truth. Absolute Heaven, who was sitting below the banquet, caressed Dongfang Yu lightly and listened to their conversation. Chu, he said gravely, my son definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Duanho, you better pay attention to your words. Duanho said faintly, however, I heard that after the banquet ended, young Master Chu brought along two ladies and left. Those two ladies were very eye-catching on that day. Yi Xiao and Chu He's gaze sunk. Because, in Chu Bai's confession, those two ladies did not appear. Chu Bai. Is what Duanho said true or not? Chu He questioned angrily. Chu Bai felt uneasy in his heart. He didn't know if anyone saw the Qing sisters get on the carriage that day. Could it be that someone saw it? If someone really saw it, wouldn't it be troublesome? After all, they would go and find trouble with the Qing sisters. Chu Bai. I'm asking you a question. Chu He shouted once again. Yes. All the patriarchs present gasped, because this was related to the level of snatching women. Yi Tai and Sage Doctor might have met with misfortune, and this Chu Bai was the first to complain, taking the initiative. Anyway, dead men tell no tales. Chapter 365. Yenxen, let's go catch the culprit, Zhu Tian said indifferently. He then brought the two women with him as he gave chase. After all, if it was too far away it would be difficult to control it. Some corpses were still quite useful. A black figure was seen running away at high speed, followed by the clan masters of the 5 great clans. Such a situation was unprecedented. Behind them, Zhu Tian carried the two women in his arms as he leisurely followed behind them. The matters that happened tonight will cause your wife to be vexed once again. If your wife is willing to listen to his honor's words, I wouldn't have to do all these things. At this time the Tang family manor was flowing with blood. It was too horrible to look at. The ground was littered with the corpses of people from both sides and broken limbs. At this moment Tang Wuxuang was also heavily injured, and blood was flowing down from his arm. Bai Cixin, Wang Debao and Xiao Yi all had different kinds of injuries on their bodies, but they were just minor injuries, so they were nothing to be afraid of. It seemed like even with the three of them joining hands, Tang Wuxuang was still unable to handle them. Wuxuang. And Rong isn't going to make it. A few pretty wives ran out of the villa. Xuanhuan's face was pale. There were no wounds on his body, but he was twitching as if he had been cursed. This was the vengeful spirit of the 9 demons punishment pagoda. Xuanhuan did not expect it to be entangled with him. Tang Wuxuang's expression changed greatly as he ran to the front of his beloved wife. The ancient godly item that was in his hand fell onto the ground, and he hugged onto Xuanhuan. And the ancient godly item that fell on the ground suddenly disappeared. Gui Qingren kept the ancient godly item, shook his head and prepared to leave. "Unrong!" Tang Wuxuang shouted out. Xuanhuan's delicate body was entangled by the vengeful spirits. Her expression was one of agony, and it looked like she was about to die. Tang Wuxuang's expression was flustered, and he hurriedly shouted towards Bai Cixin, who was in the sky. "Bai Cixin, if you have any grudges, come at me. So what if you killed my woman?" Tang Wuxuang. "What about you? So what if you killed my brother?" Bai Cixin had no intention of letting go. "You killed my younger brother, so I'll kill your woman. I'll let you experience the pain of losing a family member." Xiao Yi, who was at the side, looked at Tang Wuxuang, who was far away. "That helpless look of his is extremely similar to me back then. What was the difference between his actions and black robes? But for the family, they had no choice but to do so. Irony, a huge irony." When Tang Wuxuang saw that his beloved wife was getting weaker and weaker, he actually turned around and knelt down to Bai Cixin. "Bai Cixin, you can take my life, but let my woman go. Dream on. I want you to watch her die. You." Guan Tong wasn't in a hurry to stop the black-robed man, and he could only watch as the black-robed man turned into blood mist and fell onto the ground. Guan Tong slowly turned his head around and looked towards the other 4 family heads. Who was it? Who was the one who called him here? Jiang Yuanzhou said gravely, "Family head Guan, please calm down." "Jiang Yuanzhou, was it you? Yesterday I made you lose face and today you killed my son. How could Jiang Yuanzhou be able to stand being framed like this?" He shouted out, "Guan Tong. Without any evidence, don't slander me. All of you are suspects. I will report this matter to Voidless Realm and have Voidless Realm give my Guan family justice." After finished speaking, Guan Tong left. The other 4 family heads looked at Tang family and Bai family, and Chu, he said gravely, "You all can just wait for Voidless Realm's punishment." The 4 family heads hurriedly left. Bai Cixin clenched her teeth and shouted out, "Retreat!" "Bai family head." Xiao Yi shouted out. "This Tang Wuxuang is letting him go just like that?" "Family head Xiao, the aristocratic families have already interfered. If you continue to kill him, it will be a crime punishable by extermination of your family." After finished speaking, Bai Cixin left with Wang Debao. There is a difference between fighting secretly and fighting without listening to others' advice. You are still afraid of the former, and you are completely not giving face to the latter. Xiao Yi looked at Tang Wuxuang, who was carrying his wife, then let out a light sigh, then turned around and left. "Today I didn't manage to kill him, and instead I still have to wait for Voidless Realm's punishment. I am truly unlucky." With unwillingness, Xiao Yi left Tang family. Meanwhile, Tang Wuxuang, who was carrying his wife's corpse, walked into the house. This hatred is getting bigger and bigger. On the other side, Zhu Tian was carrying Dongfang Yue and Guan Yanxin, who had already fainted. Looking at the faint light emitted from the forest, Zhu Tian carried the 2 women and walked towards the light source. Gui Qingren, who was reading a novel, suddenly stopped his footsteps, then turned off his phone and asked, "Your Excellency, what's the matter?" Zhu Tian placed the 2 women down, then rubbed onto his eyes and said faintly, "Lend me that dagger." Gui Qingren turned around and looked towards Zhu Tian. "Why?" "Because it isn't yours." Zhu Tian looked at Gui Qingren coldly. He didn't like this person at all. Gui Qingren chuckled, "I have seen arrogant people before, but I have rarely seen someone as arrogant as you. Seems like my arrogance didn't disappoint you. Do you want me to fight with you?" Zhu Tian asked curiously. Chapter 366. After setting up a barrier to protect the 2 women, Zhu Tian rubbed his eyes and said faintly, "If I move a single step today, it will be my loss." Arrogant. Too arrogant. Too arrogant. Gui Qingren had never seen such a pretentious man before, to actually dare to say such words. Unbearable. All right. If I am unable to kill you today, you can take my life. All right. A breeze blew past and a few fallen leaves slowly fell to the ground. The sound of the leaves swaying against each other could be heard. This made Zhu Tian recall some things. Hurry up and finish this, then go back and make them submit to me. Gui Qingren took out Xi Ling. Although Xi Ling is only a dagger, its might cannot be underestimated. Back then Tang Wuxuang even used it to pierce through Xiao Yi's armor. It is not an exaggeration to say that it can cut through iron like mud. And Gui Qingren's understanding of Xi Ling seems to be even more thorough. Spiritual cut. Following Gui Qingren's shout, the spiritual energy on his body gradually spread out and actually rushed towards Xi Ling. Xi Ling greedily absorbed the spiritual energy like a 3-year-old child, and the blade of the dagger became brighter and brighter. Spiritual test. Gui Qingren raised Xi Ling with both hands. A layer of black clouds suddenly condensed in the sky. Boom, boom. Thunder suddenly sounded out and one after another lightning struck down. Xi Ling was like a lightning rod as he absorbed the power of the lightning. Spiritual cut. An even more powerful spiritual energy gushed out from Gui Qingren's body, and gradually the spiritual energy actually turned into a small white ball. Gui Qingren bit his finger, and a drop of blood slowly floated into the small white ball of spiritual energy. In an instant, the small white ball of spiritual energy turned red, and soon after the small white ball of spiritual energy merged with Xi Ling. Right now Xi Ling was alternating between white and red, emitting a wild might that sounded like the roar of 10,000 beasts. In front of Zhu Tian's eyes, it was as if the end of the world had arrived. Right now Xi Ling was no longer a small dagger, rather, it was an existence that was even more ferocious than an ancient godly item. This Xi Ling had already surpassed the level of an ancient godly item, which made Zhu Tian a bit curious. And after Gui Qingren finished using the buff he became a lot weaker. After many years of comprehension I have finally come up with this move. What bullshit voidless realm, this move of mine will be able to take the Empress's head. After many years of comprehension and application, this was what Gui Qingren had learned from reading novels. Initially he was just trying it out of curiosity, but he didn't expect to succeed. Reading novels was really a good thing. Absolute Heaven nodded his head. This person was indeed very powerful, especially that move of his. Speak. Just what are you here for? I'll leave you an intact corpse. Gui Qingren questioned. Zhu Tian calmly replied, I just wanted to use your dagger. Use for what? Gui Qingren asked curiously. My handmaiden is a member of the Dongfang family. As her master, I naturally have to help her clear her grievances. Humph? What a big tone. Washing away the injustice of the Dongfang family, then I want to see if you have the ability to do so. Gui Qingren's eyes focused, and the spiritual energy on his body rose once again. It frantically engulfed the scene and caused a rumbling sound. As for Gui Qingren, he turned into a black afterimage and attacked toward Zhu Tian with deathly aura. His speed was so fast that it made people exclaim in admiration. Unfortunately, he had encountered Absolute Heaven, one of the 7 deadly sins bearing the mind. The right-hand man of the Supreme Honorable. Absolute Heaven slowly raised his hand and extended his index finger. Shwa. His index finger revealed a cat's claw, which glowed silver under the moonlight. Ding. The cat's claw and Xi Ling clashed together, and a muffled sound rang out. The sound was especially ear-piercing, and this sound actually turned into a sharp blade that engulfed the surroundings. All of the trees were chopped down, and a rumbling sound could be heard. Clearly this is a dagger that can't even be considered as a nail clipper. Zhu Tian looked at Gui Qingren who was absent-minded and said faintly. Gui Qingren blankly looked at the man in front of him. This is impossible. That attack from Xi Ling just now had the might of an ancient godly item. How is it possible for him to block it with his fingernail? This is impossible, even the main character in the novel would not be so abnormal. Why is he able to block it with his fingernail? Xi Ling fell onto the ground powerlessly. Zhu Tian stretched out his palm, and Xi Ling slowly fell onto his palm. Gui Qingren collapsed onto the ground and asked absent-mindedly, Are you really able to wash away the injustice of the Dongfang family? I never lie. Zhu Tian said with his hands behind his back. His voice was even a bit lower and he was imitating his honor again. Gui Qingren seemed to be at ease and said faintly, Come. And my life. All right. He swung the dagger in his hand and pierced through Gui Qingren's heart before returning to his hand. Gui Qingren blankly looked at his chest that was bleeding, and then looked at Zhu Tian. Why is this man not following the routine? Shouldn't he be curious? Shouldn't he ask first? Was he not surprised by her expression at all? Why did he kill himself without even thinking about it? Do you have anything else to say? Gui Qingren. Fuck, I'm about to die and you're only asking. Can't you be a little more attentive? Actually, I'm also a member of the Dongfang family. Back then, I was the bodyguard beside the patriarch. When the patriarch knew that something big was going to happen, he ordered me to bring the real ancient godly item away and find an opportunity to take revenge. I originally thought that the Tang family would be able to squeeze into the aristocratic family, but I didn't expect that Bai Qi's death would make Bai Cixin so crazy. Once this matter comes out, the Tang family will definitely have no hope. Gui Qingren clutched onto his chest and said solemnly. Hearing that, Absolute Heaven said, "Oh. You're just saying, oh? Shouldn't you be moved by my actions? Then they would heal me as soon as possible and join hands to deal with the 5 great clans? Can't you follow the plot of the novel? I am about to die." Absolute Heaven wasn't interested in this kind of matter. It's fine as long as I get the dagger. He turned around and helped the 2 girls up. Gui Qingren was greatly alarmed. What does this mean? Hey, are you not planning to save me? Gui Qingren found it hard to believe. When the plot reaches this point in the novel, they would always save people. After all, they are all doing it for the same goal, they are all on the same side. Absolute Heaven said faintly, why? I am also a member of the Dongfang family. What does it have to do with me? Absolute Heaven asked curiously. If? Gui Qingren vomited a mouthful of blood and almost fainted. If she were to know that you killed a loyal guard of the Dongfang family, she will hate you for life. You can be at ease, she will not know. Absolute Heaven silently thought of Guan Yinxing's brother, and he seemed to have said the same thing. Gui Qingren vomited another mouthful of blood. This mother Ker is not a human. If he appeared in a novel, he would definitely be a big villain. Furthermore, he would be a big villain that the protagonist would not be able to defeat. Gui Qingren breathed heavily and wanted to take out his phone, but he didn't have the strength to do so. Can you do me a favor and help me take out my phone? I want to see if the novel has been updated or not. Absolute Heaven felt that this person was a bit interesting and said faintly, not helping. Gui Qingren struggled to take out his phone, opened the last chapter of the novel and flipped to the last chapter. Boss, recently, the people below have been complaining that the people who have been reborn and transmigrated are quite strong. Some unlucky ones who have not recovered their strength are easy for us to catch, but some lucky ones are very difficult to catch. Moreover, the compensation for work-related injuries is not high. Everyone's mood is a little unstable. I've already reported this matter to the headquarters, but they haven't replied yet, the man said while looking at the computer screen. Boss, then shouldn't we? Wu Lu probed. The man waved his hand. Let's pick some unlucky ones first. Keep an eye on the powerful ones and catch them all in one fell swoop. Yes. How is the situation in Long Inn City? The man asked curiously. Wu Lu revealed out a confident smile. Boss, don't worry. Last time, those people accidentally angered the child, so I arranged for them to retreat overnight. Soon after, I arranged for some other people to retreat, and they were easily deceived. The man nodded his head and said, 5 years ago, this man transmigrated over with 2 people, yet he has been staying at home all this time. Furthermore, he even managed to get together with Voidless Realm's Empress. This dogshit luck sure is good. There is also xianxia. This kind of luck with women is truly amazing. Wu Lu said gravely, Boss, although this boss has been staying at home all this time, I feel that he is related to a lot of things. The man let out a breath, then said faintly, then, let's increase his danger level by 1. The man could be seen opening up Word and searching for A-rank personnel. Yihua's name was within it. Copy. Then paste his name into the S-rank. And within the S-rank there were a few familiar faces. For example, Xiao Yi, Qin Xuanzong and the others. And within the folder there was also a danger level of SS. There was even an even higher danger level of SSS. 4 trash like Wei Chang and Lai Gu, their danger level was E rank. Zhu Tian's danger level was actually F rank. Yi Zizi's danger level was a bit higher, reaching B rank. Long Outyan's danger level was even in the last place. His danger level was G rank. Tell our brothers to rest up for the time being. After the headquarters distribute the equipment and funds, we will capture them one by one. The man yawned and looked at the time. It is already 3 p.m. It is time to sleep. Yes. You can leave now. Right, there has been no news of Nangong Sini, who was arranged to stay by Xiao Yi's side for a long time. Go and check what is going on. Yes. Qin Xuanzong's side has to be arranged as well. Yes. This group of people belonged to the government, and this place was also a branch office. Time and space branch office. As long as someone reincarnated or transmigrated, they would send people to capture them. Most of the people that transmigrated were very weak, and their strength had not recovered to their peak. The work was still rather easy. Chapter 368. Very good, I feel much more at ease now that you are in charge. Zhu Tian was terrified. Your honor's words are too serious. Doing things for your honor is the way of the heavens. Subordinate doesn't dare to be greedy. Yi Hua patted onto Zhu Tian's shoulder. All right, go back and properly comfort that woman. This subordinate understands. Yi Hua waved his hand and Zhu Tian disappeared from the office. I can have a good sleep tonight. I'll see how they decide tomorrow. It was not so easy to be a good person. A good person had to go through 81 tribulations to become a Buddha. As for the bad guys, they only needed to lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Early morning in voidless realm, celestial mist lingered around. The environment was elegant, and it could be said to be a fairyland. Donghuang Baiji, who was in her bedroom, pursed her lips and turned her body. Her jade-like arms seemed like she wanted to hug someone, but in the end she hugged nothing but air. Slowly opening her beautiful eyes, Yi Hua discovered that she was sleeping on the familiar imperial bed. Yi Hua let out a breath. I am already used to Yi Hua sleeping beside me, and now that he is suddenly not here, I am a bit not used to it. Your Majesty, the elders are already waiting in the main hall. A maid stood behind the curtain and said. Donghuang Baiji stood up, and the 4 maids hurriedly walked up to her and placed the emperor robe that was on the clothes rack onto Donghuang Baiji's body. After that, they prepared some clean water to wash up. As for the other 2 maids, they combed their hair into a bun and finally they put on the crown. The living empress appeared. Her beautiful face was filled with lofty majesty. Her beautiful eyes were calm, but there was a hint of sternness. The female attendants in the surroundings bowed, not daring to look directly at the empress's face, but they could also feel the empress's imposing aura. This was the correct way to activate Donghuang Baiji. Walking out of the sleeping quarters, a group of golden-robed and silver-armored figures followed behind. Swoosh swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound resounded throughout Voidless Realm, and it was as if the sound was telling everyone in Voidless Realm that the Empress had woken up. At this moment, everyone who had woken up looked towards the highest mountain peak and kowtowed. Donghuang Baiji had already gotten used to this kind of lifestyle. She walked towards the palace with large strides, and on her way there she enjoyed everyone kowtowing to her. He slowly walked up to the throne and stood on it without sitting down. Yuan Da and the others who were standing below shouted in unison, Greetings, Your Majesty. May the Empress live as long as the heavens. All of you get up. Donghuang Baiji raised her jade-like arm, then sat down. Thank you, Your Majesty. The dozen or so people stood up and lowered their heads slightly, not daring to look directly at the face of the Empress. What's the matter so early in the morning? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. Yuan Da and the others faltered. In the past, the Empress would never mention this. Isn't it all because I was pampered by Yi Hua? For the past few days, I have basically been sleeping with Yi Hua until 10 in the morning. Therefore she was very angry when she woke up. Xuanhuan cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, last night 2 major events happened in the north. I hope Your Majesty can make a decision. Donghuang Baiji sighed lightly. Why did something happen again? Why didn't he have so many things to do in the past? He had only left home for 2 days. Could he still leave the house quietly? It must definitely be Yi Hua, that miser. What is it now? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. He Xian said respectfully, Last night the Guan family's young master was assassinated in his house. Coincidentally, the patriarchs of the 5 great clans were having a meeting and discovered the murderer. They chased after the murderer, but unexpectedly, they saw 2 of the aristocratic clans having a bloody battle. Both sides suffered heavy losses, and the murderer looked at the patriarchs of the 4 great clans before he died. This made Guan Tong think that the murderer must have been arranged by one of the 4 great clans. Donghuang Baiji, Yuan Da, say it again. Be more detailed. Donghuang Baiji said coldly. What is going on? First it's the murderer, then it's the aristocratic clan's bloody battle, then it's the gaze. Donghuang Baiji felt that her head was going to explode. If Yi Hua was able to see Donghuang Baiji's current state, he would definitely feel great. Weren't you very arrogant when you left? If you have the ability, then stay outside for your entire life. Yuan De told Donghuang Baiji everything that happened. This caused Donghuang Baiji to be very angry. This Tang family and Bai family are really not obedient at all. I already said that private fights are not allowed, and they actually disregarded my words. At this moment, Xuanhuan, who was standing at the back, cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, regarding the aristocratic clan's bloody battle, it seems like it was Tang Wushuang who sent people to the Tang family's mourning hall to create trouble, and that was why Bai Cixin brought people to attack Tang family. After hearing that, Donghuang Baiji said gravely, Everyone, let's rest for an hour first. After an hour we will continue discussing. Yes. In the past, Donghuang Baiji was very decisive, but ever since she got a man she became very indecisive. It seems like she would listen to everything that Yi Hua said, and she would do whatever Yi Hua said. Now that Yi Hua wasn't around anymore, everyone felt that it was strange. However, I can still look for Xianxia to discuss with her. After all, such a thing has never happened before. Arriving at Donghuang Li's courtyard, Xianxia and Donghuang Li woke up very early, and Donghuang Li was currently wielding a sword that was as tall as a person. Mommy, Donghuang Baiji shouted out, then pounced onto her mother's embrace and gave her mother a kiss. Donghuang Baiji stroked onto her daughter's hair. Ali, continue to practice your sword, Mommy has something to discuss with Mommy Qing. Sai, Mommy, you should go and look for Daddy. Daddy is very smart, he is able to solve Mommy's problem in an instant. Donghuang Li was constantly thinking about Daddy and Mommy. Donghuang Baiji said petulantly, Alright, Ali only cares about Daddy and doesn't even love Mommy anymore. How is that possible? Ali loves Mommy Wu. After having a warm moment with her child, Donghuang Baiji walked to the pavilion. With a smile on her face, Xianxia poured a cup of water for the Empress. What's wrong? Why do you look so gloomy this early in the morning? Donghuang Baiji drank the cup of bejeweled jade immortal dew, then sighed and said, Something happened again last night. Donghuang Baiji told Xianxia about what happened, and after listening to Donghuang Baiji's explanation, Xianxia's brows tightly wrinkled. Xianxia, do you think that Yi Hua is behind all of this? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. Xianxia shook her head. I don't know either. Logically speaking, it is very normal for Tang and Bai family to fight with each other. Right now, the thing that is suspicious is that the culprit seems to have intentionally brought the 5 aristocratic families to the scene, allowing others to discover that Tang and Bai family were fighting with each other. Then, is such an action good or bad? Even if the aristocratic families don't know about it, the news would still spread today. Donghuang Baiji voiced out the doubt that was in her heart. Xianxia was also confused, then said gravely, Right now the most important thing is to calm down the situation. Don't let the aristocratic families start fighting with each other. Tang and Bai family should be punished. Donghuang Baiji thought so too. I want to go and take a look at the situation, I might be able to find some clues. Donghuang Baiji snorted. Do you think that the culprit is Yi Hua? Xianxia asked with a smile. Donghuang Baiji clenched her teeth. If it is really Yi Hua, I will bite him to death. Baiji, isn't this a bit too light? You are only going to bite him to death? Xianxia said teasingly, then took a sip of tea. What do you say then? Xianxia said faintly, Make Yi Hua kneel on the keyboard. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.